My neighbor called the cops on me last night and now he's dead. This is a long story and I'm still in complete shock. It's been an insane 20 hours. I have an emergency therapist appointment, but she couldn't fit me in until Monday. I thought writing it down might help, so here goes. I've lived alone in the same apartment for 4 years now. It's a smaller, quiet, diverse complex with lots of families and young professionals, but I don't really know any of my neighbors. I can recognize one or two I pass on the stairs, but that's about it. Last night, around 9:50 p.m., I heard a loud knock on my door. This was odd since you need building access to even reach individual apartments. I looked through the peephole, but it was blocked by my Christmas wreath. So I took a chance and opened the door. Standing there was a police officer in a bulletproof vest. I was confused and scared. He quietly asked if I knew the guy next door. The neighbor to my right? I had never met him. All I knew was that he kept his work boots in front of his door. The officer explained that my neighbor had called the police, accusing me of hacking into his phone. I was stunned. My face must have shown my disbelief because the officer assured me this was just a formality. They believed my neighbor was experiencing a mental health crisis. He apologized and left. I locked my door and called a friend for support. She told me to take down the wreath and get my pepper spray ready. I tried to calm down and start my bedtime routine, but then I heard something at my front door. It sounded like a timid knock. Thank goodness I had removed the wreath so I could look through the peephole. Standing there was a strange man, expressionless, arms behind his back, just staring at my door. I felt all the blood drain from my face. I backed away, trying to be as quiet as possible. Panic set in. And I called my friend again, asking if I could spend the night with her. She agreed to stay on the phone until I was safely in my car. I grabbed my laptop, phone charger, and wallet, checked the peephole, and saw that the coast was clear. With my pepper spray in one hand and my keys in the other, I ran down the hall, locked my door, and hurried down 3 flights of stairs. Thankfully, no one followed me. By 10:15 p.m., I was in my locked car, crying and struggling to suppress a panic attack. This felt like the beginning of a Dateline episode. I knew I needed to get it together to drive, so I decided to call the police. If they thought he was having some sort of episode, maybe he still was. The dispatcher took my information and assured me someone would call me later. At 11:50 p.m., while I was in my friend's spare room, a call came in from one of the officers who had responded earlier. She asked if I was okay and if anything had escalated. I explained that the neighbor had knocked on my door, which terrified me enough to leave the building. She mentioned they suspected he was having a mental break, but he hadn't given them enough evidence to take him away. Apparently, there's a specific phrase needed for involuntary commitment. She confirmed he had called them specifically about me, accusing me of hacking into his phone. I reiterated that I had never met him and that this was completely out of the blue. I didn't want to be part of his delusions, and I was genuinely scared. I told her I planned to visit the leasing office to discuss the situation, and she gave me a number to call if anything else happened. The next morning, I returned to my complex and spoke with the community director. I asked if this neighbor had ever complained about me. I wanted to understand where this was coming from. He assured me that there had been no complaints, but if there had been, they would have informed me. He offered to let me move to another unit without transfer fees if I wanted. I said I'd think about it, but he offered to call the neighbor to gauge the situation. Maybe he was embarrassed and remorseful, or maybe he was still upset with me. In that case, I definitely wanted to move. Later that afternoon, around 3:55 p.m., the director called me with some shocking news. He said, "I don't really know how to say this, but regarding the situation we discussed earlier, the man passed away this morning." He didn't provide details about what happened or how he found out. I assumed it was suicide or something similar, but at least I wouldn't have to worry about any more erratic behavior. It's been an overwhelming less than 24 hours. I felt like I was making a huge deal out of nothing, yet I knew this needed to be documented in case things escalated. What just happened doesn't feel real at all. I hope he's at peace and that no one else got hurt. And thank goodness I removed that wreath from my door.